So they'll be calling you a radical. A lot to talk about in this video. So I see that James Redford has passed away, and the Tribune's got a big article about the activist Redford. This is important. I just came from my oncologist. I was given 2 months to live in that room right there, 2011. Before we get to this, as far as activism and what's going on, this CEO has cancer right now. But anyway, I won't even get into karma. But so I just got off with Tim Martin, who's the #1 stillhead salmon guide in Oregon, maybe in the history of Oregon. He holds the record for the biggest stillhead ever caught. That was in 2010. So I just talked to those guys on the phone, and his buddy, who's the #1 stillhead guide, said he just came off a trip for 10 days with a bunch of guys. They spent $28,000. $28,000. They caught one little 5-pounder in 10 days. 10 people. Like I said, do you want to come fishing with me out on the Great Salt Lake? Fishermen can't fish. Skiers who can't ski. It's all a cliche. Can't you Google the salmon counts? I can't believe it's even still open. I mean, it's insanity. We used to do the Blanche Martin matrix on how much was being spent per fish caught in Oregon, Washington, Alaska. You know, we started out, we had it at 20, 30,000, and it just ballooned. I mean, it's millions. They spent $28,000. I mean, it's so insane. So back to cancer. This is important. And I just had this conversation with my doctor and my heart doctor. And I have no insurance, so just trying to get my teeth done to get by with a little help from my friends. So this is another story. I know nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it. How many people are dying right now from cancer because of COVID. Now stay with me. You have a cancer diagnosis, severe cancer diagnosis, and acute cancer diagnosis. You're under chemo. You're under treatment. Treatment takes those neutrophils to 0. So they've really backed out a lot of the chemo treatments. Hospital units. So the support groups, that's another big dynamic. They're all canceled. There's no support groups. Those are important. These are people that are in, blood cancers don't use stages. I see Redford died of in his liver, they call it duct cancer, gets in there, which is a big killer. Nasty. So stay with me. The Redfords have huge ties here. They're not from here. But he's supposedly the environmentalist documentary filmmaker. He did some good work. His work he did on the chemicals. He's helped the heroism, the firemen heroes. He's helped them out a lot. And so, but in 2011, 11/11/11, when I went to the bone marrow transplant center, everybody was all over this story. I was on, you name it, all over the world. Everybody was approaching me. They're like, oh my God, this guy predicted his own cancer. I'm in a bone. I had a stack of media requests this deep. Lots of documentarians were talking to me. Lots of them. The woman who made Hot Watergate approached me. Of course, Nuclear Lies approached me. Lots of different people approached me about this story and this path. And I'm like, well, I'm in the fight of my life with cancer. I'm dying. I have AML de novo. So somebody reached out to Redford. Not me. I didn't. I'm not a fan of his father's. The film festival's rigged, but the son, and I don't know a lot about it, I just know that, he was supposedly the environmental activist. Okay, if he's an environmental activist, I'm a rainbow striped freaking giraffe. And I respect his work, but so I'm getting requests, emails, blah, blah, I can't do it. So this woman who has ties with the Redfords, blah, 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 came into my room, and I won't use her name, and said, well, I want to approach the Redfords. I'm doing a documentary about your father being the downwinder, well, being nuked in the Nevada test site, now your fight with cancer, lifetime anti-nuclear. Okay, whatever. So apparently she says she was on their committee, their review board, whatever. They said they weren't interested, but she was interested, and I'm like, well, I really don't give a fuck. And so it's amazing to me. So my doctor says the best. Bimbo in there, he says, God, they were lined up, they wouldn't let, because it was almost impossible to get in. For her to get in, I had to get permission, the doctor had to get permission, blah, 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 blah. And so, there we go, F-35s. There's America. There's military industrialized complex over the environment all day, every day. So, my point to all this, he says, well, you know why they've all backed out on you? I says, I think so. Yeah, you know, because I didn't die. He says, you got it. Everybody was calling me the modern day Rachel Carson. By the way, Kamala Harris's mom was the modern day Rachel Carson. Cancer epidemiologist at Livermore dies of cancer. Whoa! Of course, I won't call her Rachel Carson. There was nobody that great as Rachel Carson. So, I mean, it's amazing to me how nobody's taken on Fukushima. Especially, I think his foundation was based in San Francisco. I mean, think about that place, how hard it's been hit. Fukushima to now, I'm a butcher, what's a cow? I'm a baker, what's a cake? I'm an activist, I'm an environmentalist. What's Fukushima? Rocky Mountain High. My heart goes out to everybody in Colorado. Fishermen can't fish, skiers can't get... Documentarians who can't take on the biggest subject matter in the history of mankind. He says, my daughter just said to me, Kevin, yeah, he says, it's amazing your time. He says, you're anchored hardcore for time and all eternity to probably the greatest event in human history. Yeah, the Fukushima meltdowns. I says, yeah, that's true. And he says, well, I know it's true. He says, you will live in infamy. And I'm like, no, not infamy, because I'm not for something bad. Living, I don't know what you would call it, but my uncle, who's the neurosurgeon, I remember a long time ago, of course, me and him fight, because he's a goody two-shoe. But anyway, he said he did a seminar in China way back, 2013, and he said a bunch of people come up and he says, Blanche, you related to the environmentalists, the anti-nuclear activists, Blanche? Yeah. And he says, a whole bunch of them stood up and clapped. He says, you're famous. And I says, yeah, poor and famous. So that I am. God, what have we done to her? I remember when Redford moved here, it was all about the environment. He's going to run against that scumbag Jake Garner, and he backed out. So, I don't know. The hypocrites, the greenwashers, the well-petters, everybody on the winning team, but nobody will take this on. I still don't understand it. I'll never understand it. I'm sad that he had to go like this. He's awful young to be dying of cancer. 58. I mean, you should never outlive your children. Very sad. So Tim Martin says, steelhead trip, best steelhead guide in the entire state of Oregon. 10 days, 10 fishermen. Spent $28,000. Caught 1 5-pound steelhead. Rocky Mountain Way.